In 1929, something extraordinary happened in southeastern Nigeria. It began as a whisper in the markets of Aba and spread across villages, towns, and provinces until it became a roar that even the British Empire could not ignore. Thousands of Nigerian women, traders, mothers, and community leaders stood up together to fight against injustice. This became known as the Aba Women's Riot, or as the women themselves called it, the Women's War. During this period, Nigeria was under British colonial rule. The colonial administrators introduced a system known as indirect rule, where they appointed local chiefs, called warrant chiefs, to enforce their laws, collect taxes, and maintain order. These chiefs were not chosen by the people and often abused their power. They extorted money, seized land, and made decisions without consulting the community. For the women of southeastern Nigeria, especially among the Igbo, life was already difficult. They were responsible for farming, trading, and caring for their families. Yet, under colonial rule, they had lost their voice in public matters. Decisions about taxes and governance were made entirely by men and foreign officials. In late 1929, the colonial authorities decided to conduct a new census to record how many people lived in each household. A rumor quickly spread that the British were planning to tax women just as they had taxed the men earlier. To the women, this was unacceptable. They already paid various market dues and contributed to their families' needs. They saw the new census as a trick, another attempt to exploit them. The spark came in the town of Oloko. A woman named Nwanyeruwa, a widow and respected trader, was approached by a man working for the warrant chief, named Okugo. He asked her how many people, goats and livestock she had in her home, so he could record them. Angry and suspicious, she refused and asked him, "Why should you count me? Are you going to tax women now?" The argument grew heated, and soon other women gathered around her. Nwanyeruwa's act of defiance spread like wildfire. Within days, thousands of women across neighboring towns had heard what happened in Oloko. They began organizing meetings, passing messages through market networks, and calling for other women to join them. Their demand was simple: no taxation for women, and the removal of corrupt warrant chiefs. By December 1929, over 10,000 women had gathered from different towns: Aba, Owerri, Umuahia, and beyond. They carried palm leaves as a sign of peace and unity. They sang songs mocking the chiefs and the British, chanted slogans, and danced in unison. Their protest followed traditional customs, a method known as sitting on a man, where women would surround a man's home or office, singing and calling him out for his wrongdoing until he made amends. The women's movement grew stronger by the day. They demanded that the colonial authorities listen to their grievances. They wanted the chiefs who abused power to be removed, and they wanted to stop any plan to impose new taxes on women. But the British misunderstood their actions. Seeing the large gatherings of women, they grew fearful and ordered police and soldiers to intervene. What had begun as a peaceful protest soon turned tragic. In several towns, including Opobo, Bende, and Aba, clashes broke out between the protesters and colonial forces. The women shouted that they were unarmed and only wanted justice, but the soldiers opened fire. By the end of the violence, more than 50 women had been killed, and many others were injured. The news of the massacre spread quickly across Nigeria and even reached Britain. The colonial government could no longer ignore what had happened. They launched a full investigation into the causes of the women's uprising. The report revealed widespread corruption among the warrant chiefs and confirmed that the women's fears about taxation were justified. As a result, many of the corrupt chiefs were dismissed, and the British authorities were forced to reform their system of indirect rule. They began to include women in local councils and allowed them to have a greater say in community decisions. The Aba Women's Riot was more than just a protest. It was a powerful declaration of resistance and unity. These women showed incredible courage and leadership at a time when colonial rule tried to silence them. Their actions inspired other movements for justice and equality across Africa. Though history called it a riot, it was truly a revolution, one led not by soldiers, but by mothers, traders, and daughters who refused to be oppressed. The bravery of women like Nwanyeruwa of Oloko remains a symbol of strength to this day. The Aba Women's Riot of 1929 stands as one of the earliest organized movements against colonial rule in Africa. It was the moment when Nigerian women proved that their voices could not be ignored, and that even the mightiest empire could be shaken by the power of unity and courage. Please like, share, and subscribe for more Untold African history stories.